Meeting for their annual conference, doing it in pretty good heart. They say party membership is up by 20% since the new leader took over, in part because people don't think Labour is properly standing up to reform and its policies. And that new leader, Zach Polanski, is on the line now. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Can we start by talking about Manchester, though? Because not only do you know Manchester, obviously, you're from there, you also know this synagogue, don't you?
Yes, I'm from the Jewish community and I grew up attending a synagogue that's fairly close to this one. So I'm feeling this both on a political level and a personal level. I'm also one of 5 Jewish people in British political history to be leaders of a party in the last 100 years. So I take anti-Semitism really seriously. I also recognise in the same breath that Islamophobia is on the rise, LGBT hate crime is on the rise. All of these hate crimes are ultimately about minority communities. And we do our best work when it's interfaith, when it's about solidarity, and when we look to bring together community cohesion.
You have a deputy leader, Mohsin Ali, who said after October the 7th, people supported the right of indigenous people to fight back, as he put it. And he said of the Israelis, they're not victims, they're occupiers, colonialists, European colonialists. He did apologise later for saying that, but he's also targeted a Leeds-based rabbi. Is he the right person to be a deputy leader of a British political party?
I think the key words are there that he's apologised and he stands by that apology.
Really, is that all it takes?
Well, I want to be clear that I'm a Jewish person and I feel this genocide incredibly deeply. As a Muslim man, I can only imagine what it feels like to know that every single day in Palestine, the equivalent of a classroom of children are dying.
Does that excuse those views, though?
It doesn't excuse it, but I think it's contextual. This rabbi went off to fight for the IDF. He was actively recruiting for people to engage in a genocide. And now why I wouldn't have used the language.
No, hang on a second. He went to
defend his right to be annoyed and upset about what is happening in Palestine.
Let me just explain who the rabbi was. The rabbi, Zachariah Deutsch, was an Israeli citizen. He's called up as a reservist for a tour of duty with the IDF. We don't know where. But also, his young family had to move out of their homes because of things that the deputy leader, the now deputy leader of the Greens, said. They had to move out of their homes. You're saying there is a context to that somehow explains it, are you?
I think there is a context to this. I think if someone goes to fight with an army who's committing a genocide, that there are consequences. Now, I don't stand by what Mohsin said, and neither does he. But ultimately, I do think we need to have a context on this. I also think more widely, I want people to know that the Green Party at this conference is focusing on the Middle East, but we also want to bring people's bills down. We want to defend the National Health Service.
Well, sure, yeah, but you have focused a lot. I'll get to that in a second, but you have focused a lot. For instance, you've got another councillor in Bristol, Abdul Malik, who shared a video of a Hamas press conference in which Israel was referred to as an animal state. Again, a member in good standing of your party who says that, given all that has been said this morning about the context of the attacks yesterday?
Again, I don't know about this specific instance, but what I will say is, as a Jewish man, I am very upset and I'm very bothered about what's happening in Palestine.
Yes, but surely you can be. But isn't the point, though? You can be bothered and upset about what's happening in the Middle East, and lots of people are, and regard the killing in Gaza as awful. But what you have in your party is people who have, on several occasions, and Abdul Malik isn't the only one, and nor is Mohsin Ali, the deputy leader, who have on several occasions appeared to suggest that it is not legitimate to be a Jew, and that Israel itself as a state is not legitimate. And the point that people are making, we heard from Robert Jenrick earlier.
I think very logical jump there. I don't think anyone said that. I think the questions you should be asking me.
No, thank you. I'll decide.
Why is this country still sharing intelligence with Israel? Why are we enabling a genocide that the UN scholars are calling a genocide? I think this is the real conversation.
It's good of you. Well, it's all right. You can ask the questions you like, but perhaps later. For the time being, let me ask the question. The question that is being asked this morning by the chief rabbi, by Robert Jenrick, by a lot of people, and including, we're going to hear from the Home Secretary after 8:10, is whether British political parties and people in positions of responsibility should be saying plainly and clearly that views like that Israel is an animal state, are simply unacceptable. And if you pass those views on, you cannot take part in civilized society. And what you seem to be saying to me is, no, you don't agree with that.
Well, I think you're again conflating things there. Those are totally unacceptable words, and I've been really, really clear about that. I'm also saying that we need to have a nuanced conversation about what is a genocide and talk about what's actually happening as opposed to the words that people use. Now, do we need to take responsibility for the language we use, for the way we communicate? Absolutely, and myself included.
But what is
I'm
the
always looking to get
responsibility that
better
these
at that.
people have taken then? They just apologise. Is that taking responsibility?
I think an apology is a responsibility. I also think the very obvious thing in this conversation is Mothin is a Muslim man. And we know that Islamophobia is also on the rise. He also defends people's right to pray and their faith. He put out a statement yesterday about the anti-Semitic attack that I found emotional, I found moving, and connected with me as a Jewish man. I think all of these things can be true at the same time.
You're right.
And I think it debases journalism to try and move it to the most basic context.
You
I
called
think we can have
yesterday for
nuance in
Mark
this
Rowley,
conversation.
the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, to resign for things that had happened at Charing Cross Station. Horrible things that people have said and possibly done. You call for him to resign, but you're not calling for Mothin Ali to resign.
Well, Mark Rowley said that the Metropolitan Police weren't institutionally racist and misogynistic at the same time as there was hidden camera footage of people being misogynistic and racist. I think it's quite obvious why the Met Commissioner needs to resign.
Wider thought about the conference. As I was saying right at the beginning, you're meeting in good heart. You want to emphasise, do you, that Labour, in your view, is not doing enough to stand up to reform?
Labour absolutely aren't doing enough. And ultimately, we know if we don't improve people's living conditions, if we don't lower the bills, bring the water companies back into public ownership, it's outrageous that water companies are pumping sewage into our waters and charging us extra for the privilege. And ultimately, and it does link with the conversation we just had, actually, we need to be investing in our communities. If we allow decades of austerity, both under the Conservative government and the Labour government, then community cohesion becomes very, very difficult. We need to be making sure that we are spending money on communities, that we're finding places for people to eat together, to pray together, to gather together. This is the way that we tackle terrorism and toxicity in this country, is by building community cohesion, not looking to conflate issues about foreign genocides.
Zach
I think
Polanski,
it's ultimately...
we got to leave
Sorry,
it there, but thank you very much for talking to us this morning.